Hello, this is Photography Gamer, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm reviewing Salt and Sacrifice. The game is available on the Epic Games Store and PlayStation consoles. Salt and Sacrifice is a side-scrolling adventure game developed by Scar Studios and Devoured Studios. In Salt and Sacrifice you play as a marked inquisitor who is tasked with hunting rogue mages who terrorise the lands. The game can be played in solo, couch co-op and has online features including PvP play. Okay, what's it like to play? Well, you start out by creating your own unique character. You can choose from a variety of classes, each with their own unique starting loadouts from rangers, paladin knights and samurai inspired sets. Control wise, it's fairly simple. You can do light or heavy attacks, dodge roll, block, use ranged weapons, explosive projectiles, health potions, and there's even a wall jump thrown in for good measure. Sadly, the game doesn't feature parrying, which is a little bit odd as it featured in the predecessor Salt and Sanctuary. Your loadout doesn't only feature weapons and armour, you can also wear rings, amulets and various other items that offer special buffs and bonuses. The core focus of Salt and Sacrifice are mage hunts, and they are pretty simple affairs. You start the hunt, you follow the scent, hit the mage a few times as you fend off their summoned enemies, and you repeat this process until the final showdown. It's a bit like a side-scrolling version of Monster Hunter World, but I would say once you've done 5 or 6 hunts, the novelty does wear off. After fighting endless mages, you realise that there are essentially just all the same, barring their elemental strengths. If this was a side activity in the game, I think it could have worked well, but to make this the core activity, it turns the game into this monotonous and repetitive grind. Like in the previous game, salt is dropped by enemies and this is used to level up your character. The game has a hub area where you can craft new items, weapons and armour, and there's an abundance of loadout sets to craft, with each style of mage unlocking a new set, whether that be poison, ice, fire, etc. As you level up, you will gain points that you can spend on this extensive skill tree. Now the skill tree, it's immense. It's got everything from bone mastery, heavy armor, light armor, spears, even reading magic glyphs. But the skill tree itself, I would say it's a real mess. It does take an eternity to figure out the right path, and it could be signposted a lot better. It's basically a copy and paste job from the previous game. Now, it works when you know how it works, but it could have done with a quality of life improvement. In regard to the enemy types, I'd say the mages were disappointing on the whole, and the general enemies though, I'd say they're pretty good. To progress in the game world, you need to beat specific bosses or a certain number of mages that unlock new regions. There's also unique gear that lets you reach new places in the age-old tradition of these kind of Metroidvania games. One part of the game that really felt undercooked was the game world itself. It's a disjointed map lacking any coherent flow with different regions that have almost no relevance to the others. In some aspects it felt like a free-to-play game. Repeat the mage hunt loop, gather up the loot, go to the hub, upgrade, craft, repeat, etc. When you compare that to Salt and Sanctuary, you really realise this game has changed the core structure for no reason, and this decision really does damage the enjoyment of the game. Also, the mage hunt after mage hunt taking place in the same spaces, that process soon becomes incredibly boring. For solo players, it will be a massive struggle, but there is couch co-op, that's obviously more fun, but that's still very boring, very repetitive, and it definitely does lack the charm and the quality of other Scar Studios games. You can also invade other players as well. Like I said, there's a PvP element. You can have the same done to you, but this competitive element, it adds a bit of spice, but it doesn't really rescue the game. Right, in terms of graphics, the characters, they've got this lovely hand-drawn style with grotesque but delightful qualities. The game world, yes, it has its moments, but it is quite drab, quite tepid, lacking any memorable sections. Also the armor sets, they do feel a bit weird. They feel a bit out of sync with the game world, like they're a little bit designed to appeal to young kids, very colourful and kitsch. In terms of sound, it's pretty much a copy and paste job from Salt and Sanctuary in terms of effects. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The music though, pretty disappointing, really did nothing to improve the atmosphere. Okay, good and bad points. What's good? Gameplay wise, it can be addictive for a time. Multiplayer adds a fun dimension to each session. The loadout variety adds depth to the experience. And couch co-op is good fun. Bad points, the mage hunts are boring, repetitive and unimaginative. The game world is uninspired and overused. The musical score is lacking in any quality or atmosphere. The faction system is a muddled mess. It isn't faithful to its Salt and Sanctuary roots, and it's too focused on hoovering up loot, fighting the same old mages and travelling the same tired regions over and over and over again. Okay, what is the verdict? Salt and Sacrifice has some redeeming features, but in the end, it's a massive downgrade on the vastly superior Salt and Sanctuary. On the plus side, the character customization is excellent, as is the couch co-op mode, but the day-to-day play is so mind-numbing, so repetitive and so tedious you will struggle to make it all the way to the end without slipping into a coma. The amount of mage hunts you have to do is ridiculous, and it's a real shame to see Scar Studios fall off a cliff like this. Games like Salt and Sanctuary, Charlie Murder, Vampire Smile, they show just how good Scar Studios are. Sadly, Salt and Sacrifice feels like a watered down, commercialised and uninspired effort that I really hope is a one-off. But anyway, is it worth playing? Not really. Play any of their other games ahead of this, as this one is very boring. The mage hunts, they're a cool idea, but not for core story. Side activity, yes. Core story, yawn. So yeah, very disappointing for a fan of Scar Studios, which I am. Hopefully the next time they make a game they will get back to their old ways. Also, I would say this does feel a bit like it's got someone else's handprint on it, like someone else has joined the studio and has tried to commercialise their games a little bit. It doesn't feel like a traditional Scar Studios game. And in the end, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. There was no need to dumb down the formula of Salt and Sanctuary because that was almost perfect. In the end, nobody is going to remember Salt and Sacrifice. Nobody's going to be talking about it in 5 years because it's very disappointing and it is not memorable at all. Scoring, I would give Salt and Sacrifice a 6 out of 10. Very disappointing. Anyway, there's the review. Thank you for watching. This is Photography Gamer signing off. Thank you.